Okay, so we were looking at the constellation diagram for a QPSK signal, and specifically we had said that for the QPSK signal, the received vector R can be thought of as a summation of the transmitted constellation point S and the vector n of the noise. And the noise has again the two components Ni and Nq. Ni is the coordinate of the horizontal x-axis, which is the in phase, and the Nq is the coordinate of the quadrature axis, which is the y-axis. The question is, how does the constellation that is shown over here for QPSK, um, how does this constellation, that is the transmitted constellation, what will that turn into at the receiver? We have done similar exercise for BPSK where we had only the in-phase axis, just these two constellation points, and we saw that uh, these two red dots would be marked with a number of blue dots, and the separation between the red and the blue would depend on the noise power. The question is, how will this transmitted diagram, uh, what will it turn into at the receiver in the presence of the additive noise? And so our first instinct is to answer it in this manner, that um, this is the horizontal axis. This is where one BPSK signal is getting transmitted, and we know that for that BPSK signal, the noise will turn these two red dots into a number of blue dots which are shown on this horizontal axis. Similarly, for the other BPSK signal which is transmitted on this vertical axis, these two red dots, they will also likewise turn into a number of blue dots which are shown on the y-axis. Now that seems like a first answer that we would form, but there is something wrong with that answer. What do you think is wrong if we answer that question in this manner? Um, I will ask you to pause the video here and think about this on your own a little bit uh, before we move on. Uh, okay, so the reason why this diagram is wrong is because uh, the noise does not favor only certain directions as it is shown here. For example, in this diagram, the difference between the red and the blue is the noise vector. And the noise vector either is horizontal or it is vertical. Uh, but this formulation of the noise vector here is not like that. It is not that when Ni is non-zero, which is all these blue points, Nq is identically zero for all of those cases. Or if you consider all of these blue points on the vertical lines, whenever Nq is non-zero, it is not that Ni is zero. Because noise does not care uh, whether uh, Nq is 0 or Ni is 0. Noise spreads out in all the directions in equal manner. And therefore, actually the received constellation diagram looks like this. Uh, Around each of the transmitted constellation points, the noise spreads out kind of equally in all the direction, and you get sort of a cloud rather than some horizontal or vertical lines. Uh, it doesn't matter what the transmitted constellation arrangement is. Here we have considered the constellation arrangement where the first symbol is at 45 degree, then this symbol is at negative 45 degree, and so on. We also can see the similar diagram when the symbols are at 0, 90 degree, and so on. Uh, it's just that around the location of the transmitted symbol you will see a cloud. Uh, and remember, we are getting this cloud because we are here superimposing the result of 1,000 different Monte Carlo experiments. So there are 1,000 such dots, each corresponding to a different experimental trial. Uh, and in each experimental trial, the transmitter randomly selects one of these red dots, the transmitted constellation point, and for that transmitted point, maybe the received vector has turned out like this. If we do that type of experiment 1,000 times, then we get a picture of what is shown over here. Now the concept of EVM that we had for BPSK, that generalizes to the average radius of this cloud. So basically you would again draw the error vector, uh, and you will take the average of the magnitude of all the error vectors, which amounts to taking the average radius of the of these clouds that you see around each constellation point. And you can imagine that if the noise power is large, then the radius of this cloud will become large. Whereas if the noise power is small, then the clouds will become very, very small in size around each constellation point. And so again, the EVM gives you a very good handle on the strength of the noise that is affecting the receiver. By the way, this type of visualizations are not theoretical. They are not uh, only for uh, for for your studies. A number of engineers all over the world uh, actually are working on such diagrams, such constellation diagrams. They are working on such EVM. If you go to companies like Qualcomm or Broadcom or even here at ISRO, Bharati Telecom, I mean, even uh, maybe some of the ground engineers who are working in our terrestrial systems, Vodafone or Geo, etc., Airtel, those engineers will have to uh, work on such diagrams. And there the concept of EVM becomes highly useful. The concept of drawing such constellation points and figuring out how they look like becomes highly useful, because that allows you to get a understanding of what the receiver is doing. If it is working fine, if it is not working as expected. That type of debugging is made possible by drawing such type of diagrams. So these are not only for our theoretical conceptual understanding. This is like the day-to-day engineering life of a lot of the engineers all over the globe. Um, okay, now just the way that we understood the demodulation of BPSK, we actually went through the mathematics of Bayesian theorem, and then we saw that the actual derivation of Bayesian receiver turns out to be same as that of a minimum distance receiver. The maximum likelihood receiver is the minimum distance receiver for the Gaussian noise channel. And so similarly we can then answer the question of how to demodulate a received signal, or in this case a received vector on this IQ plane, how to demodulate it and estimate what the transmitted symbol must have been like. And so there again we consider this type of constellation diagram at the receiver, and now we ask a question that suppose we got this particular blue dot which is shown over here at the receiver. Remember, all of these blue dots are the outcomes of different experiments, meaning every time the transmitter sends out a new symbol, and the uh, additive Gaussian noise introduces some different noise. So out of all of these situations, let us consider this particular situation, that the receiver got this particular blue dot where the mouse arrow is over here. So what would be the decision of our Bayesian receiver, the maximum likelihood receiver, ML receiver? So just like what we did for the BPSK case, what we can say here is that the main principle is to draw the error vectors from each of these four constellation points, the transmitted symbol points, the red dots. So we draw these four vectors, and then by the virtue of minimum distance decoding, we select that transmitted symbol as our detected symbol, for which the error vector has the smallest length. So that is just a very direct and straightforward extension of the ML scheme that we have already studied for the BPSK receiver. And it tells us that the detected symbol in this case will be symbol 4. And so now we can actually start drawing the decision regions following the same method that we did for the BPSK. For BPSK or for OOK, remember our decision region was just the halfway point between two transmitted symbols. Again, because we are doing the minimum distance decoding, the decision boundary between any two symbols will be also halfway. It will be perpendicular bisector of the line connecting any 2 points. So for example, the decision boundary between this symbol and this symbol is this straight vertical line. The decision boundary between these two symbols is this horizontal vertical line. And that ends up being the same decision boundary for these two symbols as well. And so actually what we see is that the entire IQ plane is nicely divided up into 4 decision regions. And these are nothing but the 4 quadrants. And the middle of the quadrant is at the 45-degree angle is where we will find our transmitted symbol. So these are the decision regions for the symbol arrangement 1. It is possible that you may have decided to transmit symbols using this arrangement, 0, 90 degree, 180 degree, 270 degree. Then all that happens is, essentially you took this diagram, if you consider these 4 points on a wheel, you just steered the wheel by 45 degrees in an anti-clockwise manner. And so no wonder this decision boundaries also will get steered by 45 degrees, and you get this 4 decision regions, which are nothing but 45-degree rotated versions of these 4 regions. So this gives us an algorithm by which we can demodulate the received QPSK symbol. Okay, we have mentioned this other modulation scheme, which is called binary frequency shift keying, BFSK, in which bit 0 is transmitted using frequency F1 and bit 1 is transmitted using a frequency F2, where F1 and F2 are different. Now, again, we are going to show this later on. For the time being, we are going to just accept that F1 forms the in-phase axis and F2 forms the quadrature axis. Why that is the case, we will get to that later on. But if we accept that F1 corresponds to SI and F2 corresponds to SQ, then because we are sending symbol 1 using F1, symbol 2 using F2, we will have to draw the constellation diagram in the manner which is shown here. The coordinate of symbol 1 are square root of EB 0, and coordinate of symbol 2 is 0 square root of EB. Why is it square root of EB? Because it's a binary scheme, which means each symbol carries only 1 bit, and therefore symbol energy and bit energy are identical. Why the coordinate itself is square root of EB? Reason is that we said that the distance of a constellation point from the origin of the IQ plane is the square root of the energy for that symbol. Finally, again applying the minimum distance decoding principle, we will find that our decision boundary is the perpendicular bisector of the line connecting these two constellation points. But that line is nothing but this line at 45-degree angle to the horizontal axis. The entire region of IQ plane on this side is R1, the decision region for symbol 1. And the region of the IQ plane on that side of the decision boundary is the decision region R2 for symbol 2. So this BFSK is kind of like half of QPSK. In QPSK, you would transmit two more symbols on the other side of the origin of the IQ plane. BFSK is like QPSK, which is chopped off. Half of it is getting transmitted. And you will notice that BPSK is also like QPSK, where 2 out of 4 symbols are removed. But those symbols are removed in a different manner. The constellation diagrams of the transmitted symbols for BFSK and BPSK, they look different. And I will ask you to understand what is the main important difference between the constellation diagrams of BPSK and BFSK. Remember, although they both are derived from QPSK, or they can be thought of as simpler forms of QPSK, where instead of using 4 symbols, we are just using 2 symbols. We are throwing away other 2 symbols of QPSK. Why does BPSK and BFSK are fundamentally 2 different modulation schemes? That is the question that I will ask you to answer based on these constellation diagrams. Okay, so we went from BPSK or OOK, which are kind of the simplest modulation schemes, to something which was slightly more complicated, which is QPSK. And then we kind of came back down again. We came back to BFSK, which is again a little bit simpler than QPSK. Now let us go one step beyond QPSK. Let us make the entire scheme of transmitting symbols even more complicated than QPSK. And so that is called M-Array phase shift modulation. And it's a very simple and direct extension of QPSK. QPSK has 4 constellation points in the 2D plane, and those 4 constellation points are at equal distance from the origin. That is why we were able to map it on a circle, as you saw in the earlier diagrams of the transmitted QPSK points. So the obvious extension is that we put not only 4 symbols on a circle, we put more than 4 symbols on a circle. The number of symbols that we have placed on the circle is called M here, the variable M. The other terminology, the PSK part, comes because you can see that the only thing that is changing as you move from one symbol to the other is the phase, meaning the angle of that constellation point. The magnitude of the constellation point, or also known as amplitude of the symbol, is remaining constant, which is equal to the circle of the radius. Alternatively, this energy per symbol is invariant for this modulation scheme. The way the information is getting conveyed is through phase difference, by changing the phase of different symbols. This M, capital M, is called the order of the modulation scheme, and typically we want to keep M to be a power of 2. So when M is equal to 2, we get either binary phase shift keying, or even BFSK can be kind of thought of as two-ary PSK. When m is equal to 4, we get quadrature phase shift key. This diagram is for capital M equal to 8, and that is called 8 PSK. Then there will be 16 PSK, 32 PSK, and so on. M is always uh, taken as power of 2. And the reason why it is taken power of 2 is because once you write it as 2 to the power k, m is equal to 2 to the power k, then in the bits to symbol mapper that we have seen earlier for QPSK, which was for k equal to 2 bits and m equal to 4 symbols, remember we were taking 2 bits at a time and mapping those 2 bits to one of the 4 symbols. Now we will take 3 bits at a time, and those 3 bits will form one of the 8 possibilities, 0, 0, 0 to 1, 1, 1, those 8 possibilities. And depending on which particular pattern we have for these 3 bits, we will select one of these 8 symbols and transmit that symbol. And so the number of bits per each transmitted symbol of 8 PSK is 3. Number of bits per each transmitted symbol of 16 PSK is 4, and so on. What do you think the decision regions will be for M-ary PSK? And again, let us assume that all of these 8 symbols are equiprobable. If they are not equiprobable, then the decision regions look different compared to what we are just now going to show. If all of these 8 symbols are equiprobable, then our maximum likelihood principle, the Bayesian principle, turns to minimum distance decoding principle. And remember, for minimum distance decoding, the decision boundaries are always perpendicular bisectors of the line connecting two adjacent symbols. So if we draw such lines, we will get this type of decision regions. So anytime you have, for this particular symbol, the decision region is given by this wedge. For this symbol, the decision region is this wedge over here. By the way, sorry, I think I made a mistake. This horizontal line and this so this vertical line and this horizontal lines should not be there. The decision boundaries don't pass through a transmitted symbol. So just give me a moment, I'll take care of it. Let us consider this particular symbol. Its decision region is this, which means that if we get a residued vector which lies anywhere in this shaded region, that residued vector gets demodulated as symbol number 2, as shown here. So that is our decision rule. So this is how the decision boundaries look like, and this is the decision region shaded out or colored for symbol 2. Okay, let us stop this video over here and we'll continue this discussion